Welcome, everyone, to episode 4, as I like to call this, a very special episode of the Batman vs. James Bond show. I am your host, Brian Thomas. Thanks for joining me. This is the show where we discuss everything related to Batman and James Bond movies, news, trailers, scores, reviews, matchups, and more. But today, and only today, well, I say only today, but, it'll probably come up. Today, we are talking all about Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Yeah, I had to do it that way. Bond fans, trust me when I say I have a special treat in the works for you. So hopefully you got a chance to go see this movie because, like I said, all we're going to be doing is talking about this. We're going to be going very detailed, pretty much like a magnifying glass, if you will. But, when I return next week with a new episode, we'll get back to Batman and James Bond, maybe a little bit more Bond. I don't know. It all depends, what's going on in the news. Before I forget, first off, I would like to thank everyone who has tuned in since episode 1. And for all you new listeners out there, welcome. As I like to say, grab a beer, grab a wine, grab a vodka martini, if you will. Kick your legs up, your feet up, recline, and enjoy the show. Welcome. Before we get started, just a few things I'd like to mention. Number 1, please subscribe to the Batman vs. James Bond show on iTunes and leave a nice little review for me. I would very much appreciate it. Number 2, at the time of recording this, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice has premiered everywhere. Came out, let's see, I'm recording on a Sunday night. Whenever you listen to this, could be tomorrow, Monday, who knows? The movie's everywhere, pretty much worldwide. As far as China, who knows what other countries are getting this. As I said before on the previous episode, I was beyond stoked for this movie. My expectations were pretty high. I would say they were, when it's in comparison to the last James Bond movie, Spectre, that came out. Being a fan of both of these both of these characters, it's just anytime that, I can see them on the screen, because the last time we saw Batman on the screen was in The Dark Knight Rises, which was back in 2012. And I remember when I saw that movie, boy, was I excited because, we just gotten off the hype. It'd been 4 years since in 2008 when The Dark Knight was released. And, as you can imagine, how, that exceeded expectations, and the ratings and reviews were great. And almost everybody that saw that movie, even if you weren't a Batman fan, you could respect the film because it had a little bit of everything in it. Excellent villain, great character development and such. But going back to when I saw The Dark Knight Rises, I remember I couldn't focus on anything, which is how it was for this movie as well. And, I was the first one to get to the movie theater in the afternoon. I think it was like around dinner time, and I go up, and I think I'm at least an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, because, like I said, I knew how big of a movie event this was going to be. So I get in line there, and I go to the movie theater, and I'm like, where's the line for the movie theater? Like, well, you're the first one, but you are an hour and a half, so you can just wait over there. I was like, as long as I'm the first one, then, I just want to be the first one to get in there. I want to get that, movie seat. And, I'm not even so much worried about the popcorn. I probably did. My ritual is buy a medium popcorn, maybe sometimes large, depending on how long the movie is. Fill it up with butter if I can, and all the salt, huge Dr. Pepper, Diet Dr. Pepper, Mr. Pibb Zero, whatever that they have at the movie theater. And, just sit there, and I don't start eating the popcorn until the movie actually comes on. Really weird, I know, but that's just how I am. Anyway, going back to with this, on Thursday night is when I saw this movie, and the movie time was 6 p.m. So as you can imagine, like I said, the whole day, don't even talk to me about anything else not relating to Batman v Superman, Man of Steel, or any of the Batman movies, because honestly, I'm probably going to zone out and just, I was listening to the score for Man of Steel. I almost wanted to go back and rewatch the end of Man of Steel, but I didn't have enough time just because I wanted to get to the movie theater early. So I get to the movie theater, and like I said, I wanted to get there at least an hour early, and got there around 5 o'clock, give or take. Go in, got my 3D glasses. Going in, I see the movie theater, the actual theater itself. The doors are open. I'm like, oh my God. I was like, hey, can I go in? They're like, yeah, you can go in. You're good to go. I go in, and guess what? Seats are getting filled, and they're getting filled pretty fast. Meanwhile, I'm waiting for my wife to, get there, and she said that, she was running a little late because of traffic. I have her ticket. which makes it even makes me start losing my mind because, you know, with the movie theaters here, at least in the States, it's just like, or most. Well, I mean, I know in other movie theaters, I think we've talked about this before. They let you, you know, pre-save your seat. It's kind of like stadium seating, but you get to pick it, and that's your actual seat. Not here, not in the movie theaters that we have around this area, in the Baltimore, Maryland area, not that I know of. So whatever seat you have, if you get up from that seat, chances are you're going to lose it. And people were coming in groups of like 5 to 8, maybe 10, and they're saving this. And this isn't a big IMAX 3D theater either. This is just a regular sized movie theater. Bottom line is, though, she got there just in time. Somebody who was behind me, God bless them, I didn't get their names, but they happened to be obviously a Batman, Superman fan. I even asked them, I was like, which side are you on? They're like, Batman. I was like, cool. I was like, can you please give me just 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes. I need to go give my ticket to my wife to get her in, and I'll be right back. They did, had my seats, and then she got the refreshments, and then it was movie time. So that's, like I said before, and I was thinking about how I want to do this episode. This is going to be a half and half. So when I say that, I'm going to say it's going to be half the show, give or take, is going to be non-spoilers, okay? Because maybe you haven't seen the film yet. Maybe, you know, you didn't have a chance to, and that's fine. You wanted to hear my non-spoiler review? Cool. I'll let you know when I start going into spoilers. I'm going to say it's probably going to be halfway in between this episode. I don't know how long the episode's going to be because there's so much to cover with this. You know, like I said, going back, my expectations were super, super high. Okay, so even before I go into seeing the movie, you know, the fan reviews came out this past Monday, which I believe was March, we'll just make up a date. I don't know, March 21st, I think, give or take. When these fan reviews came out, now these are the same fan reviews, I understand, that came out, or the fans that got a chance, it was about sometime last year, when the trailer, when the original Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice trailer came out, you actually had tickets or screening passes to go see this in the theater. Now, mind you, it was a trailer, but you got to see a little extra footage. And then these are the fans that get to come back almost within a year later, and they get to be some of the first ones to see this. Now, these are the die-hard fans. If you're one of those, God bless you. And wow, I mean, you're very lucky. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to. Doesn't make me not less of a fan. It just means that, you know, I didn't have a chance to go see it, or I wasn't one of the lucky ones to see it. So going back to the fan reviews, they came out this past Monday all over the internet. Very, very positive reviews, I might add. So I was going out of my mind Monday night. I'm like, okay, this is great. I mean, the movie's getting great reviews. Maybe, you know, Zack Snyder will actually, you know, finally have a movie that, you know, is actually universally liked by critics. Because if you haven't known by now, Zack Snyder's reviews or of his movies are just like, well, you know, visually it was great, but the story, he can't tell a story. So going on with Tuesday night. So Tuesday night, what happened is the embargo ended. What this means is critics could start releasing their reviews. Oh boy. This was where, pardon the expression, the S hit the fan. So RottenTomatoes.com, a website for those of you that are unfamiliar with it. It's a site that does a consensus of critic reviews and posts the average score. So let's just say if a movie gets a 10 out of a 10, it'll be 100% certified fresh, all right? So not many movies. I think some, like a movie like a Toy Story has been on there. To my recollection, I can't think of any movie that really gets a 10 out of 10. I'm sure like something like a Gone with the Wind, Casablanca, anything like that. So like I said, if a 10 out of 10, it's 100% certified fresh. If it's a 5 out of 10, critics like the movie, or 5 out of 10 critics like the movie, then it's 50% rotten, etc. So here's some previous Batman movies, such as, say, Batman 1989 that received a 72%. I don't agree with that, but that's the Batman fan coming out of me, the fanboy. Movies like The Dark Knight got a 94%. So you see how close a movie like that can come to 100%. It means that the critics have to universally agree that, you know, they found it fresh. They thought it was a great idea. Just they liked everything about it. A movie like Batman Forever, 41%, and so forth. The lowest rating by a critics for a Batman movie has been for Batman and Robin. Yeah, you know what I think about that. But that's my opinion, which received an 11%. So, where did Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice come in with all this? Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice received a 32% on Rotten Tomatoes as of Tuesday night. Sigh. Yeah, let that sink in for a minute, okay? By the time the movie came out on Thursday, Friday, or when it was started releasing into theaters on Thursday and Friday, it ended up going from down to a 30%, and now as we speak, it is at a 29% rating. However, it has an audience score of 73%, which means the fans, or the people that actually saw the movie, just like the typical movie fan, or like the more the typical average Joe that saw this, really enjoyed it. So 73%. That's pretty good, if you ask me. Before we go into the review, I still want to cover a couple other things. I know I'm dragging this on here, and I don't mean to. It's just that I'm just setting it up for how I feel. There's a movie podcaster and blogger by the name of John Campea. He's been out for quite a long time. I think he actually invented or he created the movie blog. He's on Collider. He's going to be doing stuff with Comic-Con. He has a saying, and this is probably one of the best sayings, especially for film fans out there. All film is subjective. In other words, we make our own opinions about the movies that we watch. Just because one person or critic says one thing doesn't mean we all agree with them. And Boyd, I have a love-hate relationship with Rotten Tomatoes and movie critics, and I'm sure if you are a Batman fan and a James Bond fan that you can naturally agree with that. Bond fans, we know that the last movie, Spectre, got only about maybe a 60-some%. Highest one was probably about Casino Royale, I believe it was, which was at a 96%. We're not always going to agree with the critics, and that's okay. And the fans, fans are never going to agree. It's always going to come down to, I'm a DC fan, I'm a Marvel fan, I'm a James Bond fan, no, I'm a Jason Bourne fan, no, I'm a Mission Impossible. It doesn't matter. It just matters was the movie liked by you yourself? Did you enjoy that movie? Then great. Even if it got an 11% like Batman and Robin. If you took something out of that film and you can go back and watch that movie over and over and enjoy it, then great. That's awesome. So I went to the film, like I said, on at 6 p.m. showing on Thursday night. I was all amped and pumped up for this movie. So now, like I said, it's Sunday, and I was going to try to see it again before I recorded again, but honestly, there's been so much going on, and like I said, I needed some time to digest this and give it some thought. Guys, this is probably my first official review on this movie, but if you couldn't tell how big of a Batman fan I am, or just in general, how much I am passionate about movies. They affect my way of life in a way, though, too. When I say that, I just look at these are my heroes. Batman is my top hero, and James Bond is just about as close up there, I think. Just because I've been a bigger Batman fan for longer, I think, since I was a little kid, and I wasn't ready for James Bond because it is a little bit more adult content, if you will. I can honestly say, guys, I was disappointed with this movie. Okay, so I know what you're thinking. Be like, oh, well, I know he's just going to bash it. Deep down, he's a Marvel fan. Deep down, he's so full of crap. Hear me out, okay? And if you are listening already, you're willing to hear me out. So let me do my Batman v. Put me on the stand versus Superman, if you will. This movie had so many elements that were there. Okay, when I go into a movie, okay. Before I even get to my little notepad here, when I go into a movie, minus the popcorn and the, huge soda and the fanboy me ready to go, I always, and this goes for any movie, I want good characters, I want a good story, and, I want to be wowed. And that's what I look for any movie. If sometimes it'll hit me emotionally, sometimes I'll just be left in shock. And if it makes me think, then that's always a good thing too. Going on, just with my initial thoughts of the movie, okay? Everybody's going to be saying this, and, it is what it is. You'll probably hear, a lot of the same things. I might be agreeing with some of the other or the movie websites that are out there. Some I don't. Some of the critics I might agree with. Some of them I might not. I don't know. This is me, Brian Thomas. This is my review of Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice. Okay, so take it for what it's worth. Ben Affleck was a great Batman Bruce Wayne. I need to see the movie again to determine if he is the best Batman. A lot of people are saying he is the best Batman iteration we've had on the big screen. I can't say that yet because I've only seen this movie one time. It might take me quite a while. Like I said, I'm still digesting some of this movie. I'm letting it, some of the stuff I'm going back and rethinking whether, I like this part or if I didn't. I will say that Ben Affleck did the Batman role justice, if pardon the pun. He was, everybody, knows that once, this announcement of casting came out, everybody's like, but it's Ben Affleck. He was Daredevil. This was not Daredevil. Believe me, it's not Daredevil. The Batman, when you think Batman, you think, okay, well, you have to have a guy who's super badass tough. He was badass and tough, okay? He was, if you're a Christian Bale Batman fan, he did just that. If you like the Michael Keaton Batman, he did just that. I mean, just what drew this Batman to, what was, I guess, literally, what drove him to be Batman and what, his reasoning for doing things. It was all there, okay? Henry Cavill remains the definitive Superman Clark Kent. Like I said, I'm a huge Man of Steel fan, huge Henry Cavill fan. I still hope and pray that one day he will be 007. I think that, everything that he brought, he did just as good as in Man of Steel. Kind of limited to what he was able to do with, but I'll get to that in a little while. Another big question everybody's going to be asking is, how was Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman? She worked. She did good. It was more of a cameo appearance, if you will. You just see her kind of running around in the background there, and she has a few lines, and all of a sudden, and when I say, this is still non-spoiler, okay? Like I said, I will warn you. But in the trailers, they did show that with Wonder Woman in costume will pop up. She did pop up, and, I enjoyed it. She did great. I mean, I really had nothing against her to begin with. I mean, she wouldn't have been my first choice for Wonder Woman. I think a lot of people can agree on that. However, I think that, everything that they gave her in here to do, she was probably one of the highlights of the film, if you will. Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. This is one that I'm still debating about, gang. We'll put that on the put that on the burner and let that sink in for a little while. Visually, the movie was amazing. If you know how Man of Steel is, then how Zack Snyder is, or you've heard, the guy is more of a visual director. I could probably compare him with, say, the likes of a Michael Bay, where he knows how to do action. He knows how to do these kind of good CGI. There's a lot of CGI in this, but sometimes it is needed because if you are going to have a man with probably the most powerful, super powered hero, then you're going to need that does fly. Lasers come out of his eyes, and you're going to have to make it have CGI in it. When you have somebody in a armored Batman suit fighting the Man of Steel, then you're going to need some CGI. Going into that, also the fight scenes, they were badass. I mean, they were. There was never a dull moment with the fight scenes. I can say that I wanted more, and I'm going to get to that too in a second. So for those of you that haven't been listening or have been listening to this show, and I'll say it again, what makes a movie at least good in my mind? This is getting repetitive here, but I just want to make sure that I'm covering this. What makes a good movie are certain pieces. Like, it's kind of like an ingredients in a recipe, okay? And don't worry, this is not turning into the food channel. You need a good story, you need good characters, and you need a good direction for the film. With Batman v Superman, was a few of these. So before we go any further into my initial rating, and for future reference, my reviews will be based on a 5-star rating system, 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. I'm going to give Batman v Superman a 3.5 out of 5. I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it, and it was kind of a letdown for me. With these trailers, and we briefly talked about the trailers, but for those of you that have seen the trailers, the TV spots, everything with this, the posters, this movie was marketed as a Batman versus Superman movie. So naturally, all of us were going in there saying, hey, we get to finally see Batman and Superman, first of all, in the same movie. They're going to be battling it out, and, there's another part of that, though. So the movie I watched wasn't so much that. This movie felt it was very choppy and poorly edited, and you're going to hear that from everybody, and it really is true. This story was kind of all over the place. I know I'm comparing apples to oranges here, and this is not a bashing on Marvel, but simply an analogy, so don't get mad if you're a Marvel fanboy, because actually I do like Marvel movies. I love Iron Man, I like the Avengers, loved Captain America, the Winter Soldier, I like those, and Guardians of the Galaxy. But I will say this will go down as Iron Man 2 of the DC Universe. It's a setup film, plain and simple, guys. DC feels, for some reason, they have to catch up to and do the same thing as the Marvel Cinematic Universe, also known as the MCU. This is wrong. This is really wrong. Like I said before, a movie should have a good story, characters, and good direction. I'm going to keep repeating it. I don't care. Whether it's a drama or action movie, etc., you got to keep me entertained. You got to wow me. Keep me on the edge of my seat, and so on. Yeah, I did. The whole thing, maybe I've said this before too. The whole idea about a cinematic universe. I am sick and tired of the cinematic universe. Make a good film, okay? Whatever the movie is, okay? If you're gonna do a movie, say Deadpool, okay? They did the film. They had a low budget. I'm not even worried about budget so much. They just had one story. If we can get a sequel out of this movie, then awesome. With Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, they knew that they have a Justice League movie coming up, and for some reason they have it stuck in their brain over at Warner Brothers that they have to just have a shared universe. They have to have throw all these characters in the mix, and it's just like, okay, we got to put this in the blender, and maybe we'll get something good out of it. It had so much stuff to it, and I don't want to say it failed. I mean, it's making... Well, at the time of recording this right now, I mean, the box office numbers are great. It opening over 142 million worldwide. It's going to take an estimated $170 million in domestically. That's awesome. Okay. But when numbers are one thing, same can be said about Amazing Spider-Man 2. Amazing Spider-Man 2 had the numbers, but what happened with that? Now Spider-Man is over at the MCU being rebooted for a third time. Dear God, I hope this does not happen right now with Batman and Superman or just the Justice League in general. Because guess what? April's right around the corner. April's when they start filming the new Justice League. And guess what? They're already in pre-production. They're already kind of on set. It's about to happen. I don't know what's going to happen with this DCU. They have a setup. It's there. The plans are good. I mean, but it's not the way that I would have set it up. I'm not a filmmaker, but as a fan, it's just like, okay, well, I'm more aggravated right now about the fact that going back to, you say you're going to have Batman versus Superman. You advertise that in the trailer. Then all of a sudden you're throwing in Wonder Woman. Okay, if you want to throw her in there, I wouldn't have. I would have done this setup one of two ways. I would have said, okay, why don't we introduce our new Batman movie, or our new Batman character, okay? Because we have to get out of everybody's minds that Christian Bale's no longer Batman. Ben Affleck is Batman, at least on the big screen. So if they would have done just a Batman movie and just set that up, I think that would have been the smarter approach. Instead of trying to combine too many movies at once, because that is what Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice is. This is more a Dawn of Justice, more / introduction to Justice League movie. This would have been great for the third film, instead of just bringing Batman in, and then Superman, and then Wonder Woman, and then the rest of the Justice League. So those are my opinions on that part. Let's actually get into the movie itself here. I can just see the hate mail coming in right now. Batman versus Bond at gmail.com. Bring it. That's okay. So going into the actual movie, the movie picks up where Man of Steel left off. We get to see Bruce Wayne's perspective of the fight between Superman versus General Zod. Think of it as a 9/11 point of view, or so. In other words, Bruce Wayne sees Wayne Tower crumble. He's just outside of Metropolis, or actually it was Gotham City, and he sees the fighting. He sees all the destruction from this. He sees the world engine, and they take you into, like I said, they show you his perspective. He's actually driving into where all the buildings and the fatalities and all the destruction, and we get to see it from his perspective. Great opening. we see why Bruce Wayne, Batman, is raged and, or is enraged because of this, because Superman, this alien, came to town. Once he comes to town, he brought nothing but destruction and, fatalities. So they set that part off perfect. We have a really quick introduction of how Batman's story was. So we get to see why Batman Bruce Wayne is just full of rage. It seemed like the way they were putting it is that he hasn't been Batman in quite a while, but now all of a sudden you opened up a can of worms. You pissed off the wrong person, and guess what? It happens to be Batman. So we know what's going to happen with that. So another thing they did really good is they gave a great backstory, or a really quick synopsis of how Batman became Batman to a point. So I don't want to go into that because that's going to go into spoiler territory, but I will say that those first introduction from the opening credits and so forth was great. I was like, okay, I don't know what the critics are so mad about, because this is kind of like what I'm hoping for. This is, excellent. So we're also introduced to Clark Kent, who is still saving Lois Lane from danger, if you will. He's Superman, and he's going around, he's saving. Here's the thing. Superman is, the way they set the Superman story up is just like, okay, is Superman friend or foe? And I know we've kind of seen that on Batman movies before, especially in Batman 1989. They didn't say it this way, but it's just like, okay, is Superman here to help us, or is he just going to cause more destruction, just like he did at the very beginning when he first became Superman? So Lois Lane and him, they're together, they're in a relationship, and he's Clark. The thing about Superman, and I don't know how he does this, he's always saving Lois Lane from danger, whether it's falling from a building, terrorist, or whatever. So we get to see more of that. We get to see a certain green rockstone, better known as kryptonite, that's being discovered. So all this is being set up, and very, very quickly, I might add. We're getting all different points of view, and one especially happens to be from Lex Luthor. We get it from a senator. That's also the her name escapes me right now, and it shouldn't be. Holly Hunter. Yes, Holly Hunter. She's a senator. Best known, Holly Hunter. She's actually an Academy Award-winning actress. She hasn't been around for quite a long time, more bigger in like the 80s and 90s, but she is a great actress. The biggest question, like I said, it keeps getting raised is Superman a friend or a foe? What does he stand for? And this is really good, because this is everything that was advertised in the trailers. And I'm not saying it was mismarketed. I'm just saying that I'm going to come back to that, though. Just let that sink in for a minute. So other characters, and like I said, there's a lot of other characters in here. We have Alfred, because you can't have Batman without Alfred. Jeremy Irons, awesome. Martha Kent, Diane Lane, she was great. She was awesome. Guess what? Both underused, especially with that kind of a talent. Lawrence Fishburne was Perry White. He returned. He was also in Man of Steel. He had actually a bigger part this time, and he had much more lines. And he was more, I don't want to say comic relief, but his sarcasm and just his attitude was just kind of like the humor element. But guess what? This movie is so serious and such an adult film. And trust me, I like that. I like that a lot. But there's people out there that are not going to like this. If you want to see a comedy, this is not what this is. This is, a real adult superhero film. And I like that approach. This is different from what else is out there. That's great. It doesn't always have to be jokes. I mean, think about the elements that are there. You have an alien who comes to town, and because of him, you have other aliens that cause a 9/11 of sorts, and then you have somebody who dresses up also as a bat, who, brands criminals, and he fights justice and so forth. And I mean, people die. When people die, they really die in this movie, and it shouldn't be taken lightly. That's just the way of the world, unfortunately. But I like how they do that, so that's also a plus in my mind. As far as the movie goes on, we get to see Batman investigate Lex Luthor. At the same time, Superman's trying to decide on his place as a hero, and he's kind of, you hear him mention anyway, just like, okay, this bad vigilante, he's like a one-man reign of terror. And he doesn't go too far into it. You would think that you'd see him investigating Batman a little bit more. I mean, sure, he shows up like he did in the trailer at the party for Lex Luthor, and he's asking Bruce Wayne those questions. Great scene, by the way, and you get to see a little bit more of it in there. What you saw in the trailer is pretty much what you get, but just it's nice to see the two on screen like that. I wanted more of that. I wanted even more of that. You see, after Batman is, trying to capture something, if you will, or trying to obtain something, Superman all of a sudden shows up, and guess what happens? The two meet once again like they did in the trailer, and they get to have their like little, okay, this is your warning, and this is from Superman. Be like, the next time they go to shine your light, don't go. The bat is dead, bury it. Love that line. And then this is the also famous quote, tell me, do you bleed? You will. And that's it. That's all we see in the rest of the movie until the next big fight scene of Batman versus Superman. And like I said, I guess as a fan, it's just like how they set this up. It's just like, I thought there was going to be another fight scene. I thought there was going to be more confrontation between Batman and Superman. There really wasn't. And this is where the whole Lex Luthor comes into part. Lex Luthor has a huge part in this. Jesse Eisenberg, I mean, he was okay. He was just okay. I think he was just thrown in there because, I guess fans expected if in a second Superman film that if you are going to have Superman and Kryptonite, you got to have Lex Luthor. If you did, then there were other ways of going about this, at least in my mind. But like I said, I'm not a film guy. I'm just a fan of film. So, I mean, what I pictured in my mind, when I go into a movie, I picture something, and sometimes I put, okay, this is how I want this to be. It's not always going to be that way. That's all right. But just give me a better story, and I don't like how the story played out. We'll just say that Lex Luthor is up to a mysterious plot with Kryptonite, and he's experimenting with the Kryptonian ship that crashed in Man of Steel as well as General Zod. So I don't want to go into much more with that. I will say, let's go into other little nitpicks here. Not nitpicks, but just other little highlights anyway. The costumes. So, I mean, the Superman costume it's still awesome. I think they kind of lightened the blue on there, but everything else pretty much stayed exactly the same, and I like that. He's awesome. Superman flying, I believe it. I mean, everything that he does, whatever. The costumes, as far as Batman is concerned, we've never seen Batman costumes like this. Like I said, the dark gray, played out perfectly. The cowl, the ears of the cowl were a little smaller, and I like that because they're not oversized like they were with a Val Kilmer, George Clooney bat suit. No bat nipples, don't worry, and no shots of his ass in a bat suit. An interesting 2 bat suits that were also in there, because he had 3 bat costumes, is the Dream Sequence Nightmare, if you will. Not going into that because that's going into spoiler territory, but I will say that Batman with kind of like a glasses on, and I would call it like a Bane. Oh man, if you remember Dark Knight Rises, the jacket that Bane wore in there, it's kind of like a trench coat, like a brown trench coat that covered his costume because he's in the desert. That was an interesting costume. I did like that a lot. I did, but still, my favorite's going to be. It'll be between the gray Batman suit that we saw, like when you see that was first released, the sad Batman, as they say, when he's pointing his head down. I really enjoyed that. That's pretty much the ones used throughout the movie. The armored bat suit. This is the one that everybody wanted to see because we've never ever seen a suit like this, and at least in like a film like this. Sure, we've seen it in like the Dark Knight Returns. We saw that on the cartoon version of it, if you will. But seeing this in as much real life as it could have been, because it still is CGI, but it was awesome. It was just, I mean, what Batman did with this, and just it is believable. Another big question has been like, okay, especially for the non-Batman fans out there, and I heard people saying this over the weekend, be like, why is Batman fighting Superman? That's so stupid. Why would we know who's going to win? It's going to be Superman. Go watch the film. Think about this, okay? Superman has only been Superman for only a couple years, okay? So he's still kind of, developing, if you will. It's kind of like a child realizing, oh, hey, I can do this, but I can do this, or whatever. Just like a puppy, or, if you will. Still doesn't realize what they can do. Batman is an aged Batman in this film. He is incredibly smart. And then take into consideration kryptonite. If you don't know, kryptonite is Superman's one and only weakness. Kryptonite can not only weaken Superman, but it can also possibly kill him as well. So I'll leave it at that for right now, as like I said, for the non-spoilers. Other things I wanted to go into here were the Batmobile. The new Batmobile is awesome. It's it's kind of like the Tumbler, but at the same time, it's more like if you played Batman Arkham Knight, this would be like more of that kind of a Batmobile. Could do a lot. They use the guns. I'm going to say that. I'll leave it at that. Great car chase in there. I guess the question would be, did the trailers give away too much? I will say that the trailers kind of gave away too much. There is no... Actually, you know what? It's not a kind of... They gave away too much. They pointed it in a direction, like I keep saying, that I thought, and many fans thought that they were going to take, but they decided not to. So, I'm trying to go away from doing spoilers here, and you know what? I almost have to. Like I said, I would give you a warning before I go into spoiler territory here. So, in order to talk more about this movie, let's just go into spoilers. And so, you've been warned. You can put it on pause, fast forward, whatever you want, but go into spoilers. Okay, spoilers. So this is where we talk about the real meat and potatoes of the film, as they like to say. My instructors used to say that at a certain job. I'll leave it at that. So, all right. I don't even know where to begin with this. I mean, after I was leaving off with the non-spoilers, we said, did the trailers give away too much? They did. They really, really did. They showed pretty much the highlights of the film, if you will. If you guys remember the last trailer that we had for the Batman, it was for Batman v Superman. It was, I would say, the fourth trailer, and it shows like the whole Bat plane coming in, and then Alfred takes control. Master Wayne, I'm picking up so many people on this when I drop you off on the second floor, and then he comes in and does an insane, and I say Batman comes up from the floor and just does some amazingly choreographed fighting, and definitely one of the highlights of the film. But once again, it was in the trailer. We see the Batman v Superman, or Batman versus Superman fight. They didn't give too much of that away. They gave you some highlights of it, but when they do the clips and so forth, they'd be like, okay, well, I try not to watch them. I don't know if you're like me. If something comes out, whether it's a TV spot, trailer, or clip, I try not to watch it, but guess what? I just do. And that's, I'm guilty of that. So, like I said, when I set up a film in my mind, it's my fault for going to see this, but it's just, the problem with social media is that it's out there. So, the Batman fight sequence versus Superman, it was great. It was excellent. I wish I wanted more, though, and I said this in the non-spoiler. I wanted at least another fight out of those two. I wish I would have seen a fight in just Batman without the armored suit versus Superman. The standoff that they did at first was great. When Henry Cavill rips off the windshield, almost, if you will, of the Batmobile and says, next time they shine your light, and so forth, and then do you bleed? If they would have had that, still keep that, but if they would have had a fight in between that and the Batman armored suit, I think that would have been great. That way Batman knows how powerful Superman is. Not that he didn't already, but it just would have made for just even, more of a Batman v Superman kind of thing. Going into the title, the whole Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, I want to touch on this. Yeah, this was not quite a Batman versus Superman film. It should have been titled just Dawn of Justice, or We're Trying to Catch Up, and just have introduced as many little things as possible, because we feel that we need to catch up to Marvel when we really don't have to. This movie could have been broken into at least two different movies. It could have been just a Batman versus Superman film, which should have been to begin with, at least in my mind, and then have a third film to set up the Dawn of Justice, or the Justice League. Because the Batman elements of this film was everything that a Batman film could want. The Superman part was great. Him going to DC on trial, him, being questioned, is he a friend or a foe? And they have all the news reporters covering this to be like, okay, what is Superman here? Is he going to, is he a false god? Is he really, is he a god? Is he, who is this guy? And should he be a hero? And that's what Superman's being questioning himself about. Be like, well, did these people don't want me here, so maybe I shouldn't be here. Maybe I should just go away. And that was a great aspect of it too. But then you throw in the Lex Luthor part. And the Lex Luthor part, like I said, he was a really squirrely character, if you will. And I know it's not the best choice of words, but he was odd. We live now in a time of movies where, a villain has to almost be psychotic in order for him to be evil. You take a villain and, sure, we'll compare this, and it's really not even comparison. The Joker, just the character of the Joker. If you want to look at Jack Nicholson's interpretation, you want to look at Heath Ledger's version. We haven't seen Jared Leto's. What made the Joker was that he was a killer, he was a terrorist, he was psychotic, but he was entertaining in both iterations. He always had a plan. That's his thing. He always outsmarted Batman. With Lex Luthor, I could almost see that. He was almost trying to be like a Joker, kind of plotting, and that's exactly what he did. He was plotting Batman versus Superman, or at least that's what we were supposed to believe this whole time. We never got like a reason why he hated Superman. My guess is that, he just, maybe because the tanker in Man of Steel got blown up that he had, maybe one of his buildings. I have no idea. It's just one of those things that they want you to go with, and the writing was just it sucked. I'm not a writer either, but I would say that you have A, B, and C. You have Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, and Act 1 should be a setup of what's driving, or in this movie it should have been Act 1 what's driving Batman versus Superman, what's driving Superman versus Batman, and even what's driving Lex Luthor. We got the Batman aspect, and we briefly got the one for Superman, and Lex Luthor just like, oh, hey guys, I'm just psychotic, and I'm just going to blow everybody up, and I'm going to play these two characters, and yeah. And that's all the way up to the third act, and you didn't even set it up in the second act, and it's boggling my mind, guys. I'm sorry. With Lex Luthor, it's just like, okay, well, you're just a whiny little prick. That's really what you are. And at the same time, you're just hoping that Superman's going to do something to him, or Batman, and it doesn't happen. But we'll get to the ending in a little while. But those are my thoughts on Lex Luthor. Just like it misused, and just I've only seen a couple iterations of Lex Luthor. The Lois and Clark TV series, and Superman Returns, and the Kevin Spacey Lex Luthor. At least he had a reasoning for why he didn't like Superman. Like I said, the movie itself, though, if they had the great Batman, you can tell almost where Ben Affleck supposedly probably wrote the Batman, his parts, because they were done great. The interactions between Bruce Wayne and Alfred, or Batman and Alfred, they were great. Alfred was so underused. And we had never seen an Alfred like this. We got great. They had a Batcave that was all set up, and they had the Robin suit that was there, and the joke's on you, Batman, whatever. And we know that they didn't explain that, they didn't have to, but it was really cool just seeing the Robin suit and knowing he died. We never got an explanation of that, but we know that it had to have been the Joker. What else? Like I said, the Batmobile, the Bat airplane was awesome. The whole Batman is all right. Here's the deal: Batman is no longer living at the Wayne Manor. Wayne Manor, it looks like it's just sitting there. It's just, no one lives there anymore, bottom line. It's just a big pile of bricks, if you will. Batman goes to visit his gravesite. That brings me to another point. No, I'm jumping all over the place, but I almost have to, because that's how this movie did. I talked a bit about the beginning of how they set up Batman and how they introduced him. So with any Batman movie we've ever seen and how they introduce Batman, it's just like, okay, we know that his parents die in an alley, whether it's Joe Chill or Jack Napier killing his parents. In this one, it was just, they never gave the person's name, but it just looks like it was just a criminal who was trying to get money. Was it Harry Dean Morgan, I believe, was the one playing Thomas Wayne and Martha Wayne. I don't know who she was either, but they show that, and this is at the very beginning of the film, and they're showing a funeral scene. It's like, this is your first 5 minutes. I'd be like, okay, well, we know what kind of tone you're going to go with. You're not going to go with just a nice little popcorn flick. You're going to go with a serious drama. I'm all in. That's great. You see Batman drop down into like a cave. All the bats come out. I think I would say that was kind of like a tribute to Christopher Nolan, how the bats kind of go around him. But I mean, one could say that any Batman movie can be a tribute to another Batman movie. So I mean, I won't say that. I know that Christopher Nolan executive produced this, and Snyder and him are friends. But I could see Snyder paying tribute and that kind of doing it the way, just saying, "Hey, Chris, we love what you did with the last film, so this one's for you." What else? The destruction of Wayne Tower. I really liked how they did that. I talked about that before. You see a guy with his legs crushed, which you won't see in most superhero movies, or at least kind of a softer superhero movie. That guy, I don't know his name, but he was an interesting setup for the film because he's the one who spray painted, like you see on the trailers and the posters, False God. Because he's mad because Superman, what Superman did caused him not have feeling in his legs. He's paralyzed. So, I mean, naturally he would be upset. Lex Luthor uses him to actually deliver a bomb, if you will, in the Senate. So they go into a Senate committee hearing with Holly Hunter as the senator, and Lex Luthor planted a bomb in this guy's wheelchair. And ends up going off, I guess, to make it look like Superman caused more destruction, and Superman feels so responsible about this, and maybe Lex Luthor is hoping that Superman will go away, or this will just this will be the final nail in the coffin. Everybody hates Superman now because he's responsible for even more fatalities and destruction. And that's that comes back to the whole Lex Luthor thing. I don't think that was necessary. I mean, if you would have had just the Batman perspective that was set up perfectly, if you would have had more of Superman, kind of like along the lines of a Man of Steel, just saying, okay, here I am, Superman, and Batman's interfering. I need to go confront Bruce Wayne, Batman, or kind of figure out who this Bat guy is and stop him and tell him, and kind of had that aspect, but not so much. Like I said, too many characters and so much setup here. Let's go into, all right, here's a good one. Batman Kills. Yeah. How do I feel about that? Well, if you've read the comics, or if you know the backstory at least of Batman, it's that Batman's number one rule is that he doesn't kill. Now I did look into the comics of The Dark Knight Returns, the Frank Miller story, and it ends up being that you have an older Bruce Wayne, and with this Bruce Wayne, he's lost Robin. People have died because of whether it's the Joker or other villains, and Batman just decides, he's lost it. He goes all out and he just starts killing. And Alfred even brings up this question: what separates you from, or maybe he didn't. Like I said, I need to see this movie again. I think it's almost like a question to be like, what kind of separates Batman from being like the criminals, because now he's killing. He's at the same level as them. The only thing that makes him different is that he's, he dresses up as a bat, and even though he's killing bad guys, killing is killing, and that's another aspect. But yes, this Batman Kills, whether it's with guns like you see in the dream sequence, which we'll get to in a second. I think he did near the end fight with the other bad guys that kidnap Ma Kent. Let's see. Yeah, he did it in the Batmobile. He was like chasing this truck, this tractor trailer, and he's actually just blowing the hell out of it with his guns and explosives, and running people over. I think so. It is it's a very strong PG-13. If I didn't say that already, but it is. I can get down with the whole Batman killing part, just because they're showing it, because every other Batman iteration is just like, I won't kill you, but I don't have to save you. This one's just like, all right, I've had it. You guys have pushed me to the limit. I'm going over the edge here, and that you don't get a one-time pass. So, interesting way of doing it. I mean, I can see why people are going to get mad about that, especially the diehard comic fans, or just in general. Batman doesn't kill people. Well, he's got guns, and sometimes I guess that's what happens in the comics. So they're trying to pay tribute to that. This dream sequence, this was called the nightmare sequence. So we see Batman in the desert. This goes back to the desert outfit that he had where he's wearing that trench coat. You see Batman going into the desert, and you see the symbol that's actually in the ground. It's called the Omega symbol. Everything I've read and heard is that it's the symbol of this guy named Darkseid, and he's like the big villain of possibly leading into the Justice League. And you can obviously tell, but for any other typical movie fan that's been out there, just anybody, average Joe, they wouldn't know what this is. So, and there's, hence the time it actually happens to be Easter. But there's so many little Easter eggs in here that you have to pay attention because, like I said, the story just keeps jumping all over the place. The editing sucks, literally. Man, I wish they would have hired some of the people from the editors of the Bond movies or even, the previous Batman movies. Anyway, going off on a rant here. So in this nightmare sequence, Batman's trying to buy up kryptonite, and the Superman soldiers, I guess that's what they're called. Sorry, I'm not a diehard comic fan, but there are these SWAT-looking guys that have the Superman logo patch on their black SWAT-looking kind of gear on their shoulder. They're armed with machine guns. They double-cross Batman. Batman breaks out a 1911 Colt, starts shooting them. Then he unleashes with... Boy, is he the Dark Knight here. I mean, he just takes their machine gun and just starts shooting pretty much all of them, as many as he can. They end up capturing him. So when all this goes down, they break Superman. They just all of a sudden they hit him on the head. He wakes up. He's in shackles, kind of like he was in the TV spot. Same idea, same scene. All of a sudden, Superman goes right down into like this, like a bunker almost. Yeah, I'll call it a bunker for now. And you see the soldiers bow to him, and all of a sudden, what does Superman do? It's like Superman's pissed off. As a matter of fact, Superman takes his laser sight and starts killing some of Batman's friends that were with him that were trying to help him capture the kryptonite. And all of a sudden, like I said, Superman's taking him out with his laser beams, his laser eyesight. It's like, oh my God, this is not Superman. And then all of a sudden, he takes off the cowl off Batman. Ben Affleck has this, oh crap, look on his face, as he should. And then all of a sudden, it goes into Bruce Wayne wakes up and realizes it was a nightmare. So how did I feel about that scene? I really liked it because I think it was just kind of like Bruce Wayne, it's his fear of what could happen. Or was it something that really is going to happen? That is a good question. We'll get to that in a little while. So after he wakes up from that, all of a sudden something else happens. We think this is a dream sequence, but we're not even sure. A lot of people think it actually is true. This is real. All of a sudden, somebody just pops out, kind of like out of this, like, it's like if there was an imaginary window that would just happen to pop up all of a sudden. Guess who pops out but the Flash? Now, the Flash, from what I know, is his capability is not to just travel as fast as he possibly can, but he can also do time traveling. So the Flash pops up and is saying, "You were right about him. You were right. Lois Lane is the key. You need to find him," and so forth. And it's almost like this can be taken from two different ways. The Flash can either be warning Batman or telling Batman, hey, you were right about Superman. You cannot trust him. You need to find him and get him. Or this can be Darkseid, and everything that you just envision it could happen if things aren't going to be done unless you find Lois Lane and unless you try to get with Superman. So I can kind of see where they're going with that. From Bruce Wayne's perspective, he takes it as if, okay, well, we need to destroy Superman. Game on. I'm going to do whatever I can. I'm going to get that kryptonite. I'm going to go kick his ass, and I'm going to kill him. Bottom line. So let's see what else is there. Meanwhile, all this is going on. We still see Wonder Woman in the background. She's happens to be pretty much everywhere where Bruce Wayne and Man of Steel are, or Clark Kent. She pops up at some parties for Lex Luthor. We also see Batman's trying to figure out who she is. Somehow, later on in the story, there's an email that's sent to Diana, which happens to be her name. They were never told that. We're not even told that she's Wonder Woman. We don't even get a name for her, but we all know who that is. So we get to see her, and somehow Bruce Wayne sends her an email. Not sure how he found out her email account. Maybe he Googled it. That'd be pretty cool. It is 21st century. So he sends her an email saying, I know who you are, or, tell me who you are. I need your help, that kind of deal. And because Wonder Woman is after some picture, and she even says that, she's trying to investigate Lex Luthor. They're after the same thing. They both kind of know it, but they're still playing cat and mouse. So he sends her this video or videos of who but the Justice League. Yeah. So that's one way of introducing the Justice League. So on this email, and boy, do I hope that was encrypted, they send a video, or Batman sends this video of the rest of the six. So in this email is Aquaman, Cyborg, and the Flash. And you kind of see just a quick glimpses of them. We'd already seen the Flash, but now we see the Flash, and he's in this convenience store, like a 7-Eleven. Somebody goes in, tries to rob it. All of a sudden, the Flash takes him out, and all of a sudden he's back just trying to get his Dr. Pepper and a bag of Doritos. We see Aquaman underwater, and somebody's like filming this like with their GoPro. They see this guy pop out from under the sea, and his hair looks like something out of a Pantene Pro V commercial, and all of a sudden he just zooms out of there. That was about it. That was Jason Momoa. Cyborg looks like something, it looks like it was done very poorly, I think. Kind of not an insult to the CW and to Arrow, because Arrow is probably one of my favorite TV shows out there, hence it is like a Batman. They have this guy on, this father has his son on there, and I think it's his son, I could be wrong. The character of Cyborg, because it's just on this table, he's missing majority of his limbs. Somehow this cube all of a sudden just explodes and gives Cyborg like all his like arms and makes him into this cyborg, if you will, like a Terminator. And I'm like, okay, well, that's great, but why didn't you save that for another movie? Do we need all this? Because this is a lot of information at one time. So that was like kind of how they introduced the Justice League. It was interesting. Like I said, the setup for the Justice League, it's all there, but it was the execution of how they did this, which I didn't quite agree with. Oh, adding on to more characters that were in this movie, let's add in Doomsday, because yes, Doomsday was just spoiled in the trailer, and the one where, all Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman, is she with you? I thought she was with you. Yeah, the Doomsday fight was great, but I don't think it was necessary. Who is Doomsday? Doomsday, in a quick summary, is the body of General Zod, which Lex Luthor ended up getting his hands on, and he took him into Zod's ship, the Kryptonian ship, and he kind of did like, I guess, kind of like I don't know how to call it, just like the ship somehow made General Zod into Doomsday. They just took the dead body. Lex Luthor cut his hand, put his blood on there, and it brought General Zod's body back to life into what is known as Doomsday. At the same time, this Kryptonian ship is telling Lex Luthor everything he needs to know possibly about all the alien species and whatever, because somehow he knew that all the other metahumans, as they call them, the Wonder Womans, Batmans, Supermans, whatever, he knows that they're all out there. So he obviously somehow, I don't know how he knew all about this. It's not explained. Going back to Doomsday, though, Doomsday he was okay, but he was a very CG-heavy kind of guy. When all that happens, you see the Wonder Woman fight. Like I said, Wonder Woman was great. I mean, people were cheering for that, and I myself was clapping for it. I was like, hey, this chick's badass. We've never seen a character like her before on the big screen. I'm all down with that, but at the same time, just like, okay, you're just putting way too much into this movie. It's just, I'm tired from just seeing all this information at the same time. If it wasn't a sitting and waiting period for the big Batman versus Superman fight that, was very heavily marketed, I'm just like, okay, well, where are you guys going with this? Because you're throwing all these different elements out at me. So, yeah. I know I need to finish up here because I'm probably losing everybody, but a couple of the things I wanted to mention was, all right, this movie, this is the biggest spoiler of them all, and if you really didn't want to hear it, then just skip through it now, but if you're listening to this, then you already know. Superman dies at the end. He's killed by Doomsday. He takes the Kryptonian pole, if you will, that Batman created to try to kill Superman. He flies it, and he sticks it into Doomsday, and it kills him. At the same time, Doomsday's hand is growing back and punches Superman right through the chest. And it's just like, you killed Superman? What? And it's just like, wow, I didn't know Superman could die. Well, he kind of did, if you will. So there's funerals for Superman at the end of this and for Clark Kent. You know, like I said, the movie started off with a funeral scene of Thomas and Martha Kent, and then it also ends with a funeral, which is just like, okay, well, one, you didn't need to kill Superman. I know what you're trying to do, because apparently a famous comic book out there is The Death of Superman, or The Death of Superman. And you're trying to show that Superman is sacrificing his life for all of humanity, which he did. That's great, but I don't know. I really don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I can live with that. I mean, it's just like, okay, what did Batman do in The Dark Knight? He sacrificed in order to save Jim Gordon's son. He ended up killing, and he killed Harvey Dent. But, you know, they said that, you know, Batman killed, you know, all the cops, and he killed Harvey Dent, and he got away. Batman took the blame, making him the Dark Knight. In this case, Superman's the hero because, like we said, the whole question throughout this movie has been, is Superman friend or foe? And in this case, you know, everybody's, you know, mourning over Superman. They have a military-style funeral for him. They have jets flying in the air and so forth. So we know, at least the public, most of the public will know that Superman's place on this earth, or his purpose, was to save everybody. He was a good guy. If they, I don't know, they can get away with that. I can live with that, I suppose. I mean, we know that Superman has to come back in order to, you know, help form the rest of the Justice League. It's just putting a different spin on it. And like I said, I mean, there's probably different ways they could have gone about it, but oh well, that's how they did it. So kind of got tired of seeing all the funerals at the end of this. And to me, like I said, it's another callback to The Dark Knight Rises, if you will, just saying, okay, we're all sad, but we know deep down that Superman's going to come back because we all saw the dirt move, because we know that Superman can, you know, heal. It just might take a little while longer. I've heard reasons that, you know, the reason he took so long to heal, or he could be taking so long to heal, is because he had kryptonite right by him when he killed Doomsday, which weakens him, and he had it with him quite a long time. So that might, you know, end a nuclear weapon exploded, which almost killed him too. So man needs some time to heal, if you will. You know, overall, though, with this movie, like I said, so many different elements of this. I mean, I could go back and watch this movie, which I'd like to one more time while it's in theaters, because you have to experience this movie in theaters. The IMAX is the best way to go, just because this whole movie is an experience in itself. I mean, the fight scenes, the nightmare scene, I don't know. Just seeing all our seeing all these characters on film is awesome. I mean, like I said, at the same time, it was all about the story. So, yeah, I'm sticking with the 3.5 out of 5. I didn't hate it. I don't love it. I like it, though. I mean, I would say, here's the best sum, and I don't know if anybody's ever said this before about this movie, but I'm sure as hell going to say it. Consider this movie like the incredibly insane hot girl that you've always wanted to date, okay? Or hot guy, whatever. You have such high expectations for them, but all of a sudden you go out on a date with them, and guess what? They're not what you expected. You had a good time, you enjoyed yourself, but you came out of there after the date, and you're just like, I don't know if this was what I was hoping it was going to be with them. It really wasn't. That's what this movie is. I think in time, people are going to respect it. The critics, they're entitled to their opinion. Us as fans are entitled to our opinion. If you love the movie, that's great. If you agree with some of the stuff I said, that's great. If you don't, then that's no problem. I mean, we're all fans. We're all entitled to our opinion. I always say that. I'll keep saying that. But yeah, I'll stick with a 3.5 out of 5. I still say Man of Steel was was the better of, you know, the Superman movies there. Batman movies, if this was a separate Batman film, this would have been great. They had more than enough story to make this a separate Batman film. They could have made this a separate Superman film too. Ben Affleck, you know, he is the new Batman. I think he's going to be. I can't wait to see. I hope that he does a separate Batman film very soon, because maybe with a different director or a different writer. With writing, I think the problem with this was a couple things: the writing, the directing, and the editing. The editing sucked because it jumped all over the place. They all of a sudden stop, and then you're like, how did we get here? Why are we here? But we're back and forth, this and so forth. We're like the Flash. We're just bouncing back and forth with this, like a tennis match. With the story itself, I think you had one script, and you could see that, somebody else tried to add to the script when they probably shouldn't have. The studio probably wanted to get their hands in on it. Seen similar things with, like, say, the Fantastic Four. Saw things like that with the James Bond movie, at least the last James Bond movie. Be like, okay, somebody in here did some editing in their writing, and it wasn't what it was originally supposed to be. That's what we got, though. The directing, like I said, at the end of the day, it's the director who makes the final decision, or at least we would like to think that he does, because he's the captain of the ship that plots us on the course of where we're going to be heading. And we sure as hell hope that he's going to take us to that beautiful island or wherever vacation spot, and it's going to be worth it. In this way, it's just like, okay, well, I kind of got my money's worth, but I don't know if I want to take that cruise again, or I don't know if I want to take that vacation again. That's my 2 cents. So I hope you enjoyed my review. Like I said, I'll keep asking for it. Please let me know what you thought of the movie. I hope you enjoyed it. I did enjoy it. I just didn't love it, but that's me. So that about wraps it up for this episode of the Batman vs. James Bond show. Please subscribe on iTunes and or Spreaker. Make sure that you follow the show and leave a comment. Let me know how I'm doing. Follow me on Twitter at Batman vs. Bond, and like me on the Batman vs. James Bond Facebook page. Like James Bond, I will return next week with a brand new show. We'll get more James Bond news next time. We'll still have more to talk about with Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. Some other articles that I found that I really want to talk about with you guys. Unfortunately, there's not enough time. But until next time, peace out and have a great week. Bye-bye.